This up oh. This upcoming full moon in Taurus is very much saying you do not need something dramatic to happen to you. You don't need like a tower moment. You don't need catastrophe and chaos to happen to you for you to finally wake up and realize that you need to change your fucking life. You don't need devastation and destruction to then wake up and realize that it's time to grow and evolve and transform. And I think I'm really speaking to the Taurus Scorpio people out there. Scorpio Taurus people love the drama because that means that they now have an excuse to recreate themselves. And while that's all fine and dandy, this full moon in Taurus this week on November 5th is very much saying you aren't actually stuck. You don't need to keep coming up with excuses. You don't need to keep putting yourself in these boxes, in these limited spaces, and then wondering why you're not expanding, right? This full moon in Taurus energy is bringing in a bit of a realization about like, okay, like where you've gotten a little bit too comfortable. There's places where you've gotten complacent. You've gotten too comfortable. And potentially you're a little bit bored and you don't even realize it. Okay? And sometimes we need to not get what we want to get what we actually need. And I think Taurus is a sign that can be very enlightening because Taurus is fixed earth. And so Taurus is very good at rejecting what is not safe and what's not secure. But I think Taurus does have to get better at realizing, okay, this is when I need to say no to something I might want so I can say yes to what I actually need. Okay? That is like the evolved version of Taurus. A Taurus has seen some things. A Taurus is matured when they are able to say no to things that they want. A Taurus that has a lot of learning to do and has a lot of lessons to still learn is a Taurus that is just going to indulge in every little thing that they could possibly want, right? But I think a lot of this is going to be also tied to our self-worth and our value, right? How we value ourselves, how we see ourselves, because right after the full moon in Taurus, Venus is going to enter Scorpio. So really for all of November, the Taurus-Scorpio axis is going to be very much activated. And this is really going to tie directly to the boundaries that we set, realizing and taking stock. This full moon in Taurus is going to be the last lunation before winter starts, okay? So this is going to be very much a full moon that is about preparation and harvesting, okay? We are taking stock, we are recalibrating, we are reflecting, we are cleansing, and most importantly, we are recharging, okay? This is a very Venus-heavy full moon, so this is a really great time to be setting out, any beauty-related tools, potentially maybe gardening tools, herbs, okay? Any, magical items you may have, any personal items, if you want to make some moon water, that would be favorable for this full moon in Taurus because this is going to be a very grounding energy. So this is really going to allow you to kind of get through the darkness of winter by using and taking advantage of this full moon in Taurus energy, okay? And something that we do have to remember about this full moon in Taurus, and really what it's saying is that, you are not a tree. You are not actually stuck. Being stuck is an illusion, okay? You are not a tree. You can actually move. This full moon in Taurus is very much showing you, okay, we need to reconnect with your roots. We need to remember why it is that you're doing what you're doing, where you come from, the reasoning. We need to reconnect with your roots so you can understand. So you're not trying to build a foundation on top of a trash heap, okay? This full moon in Taurus is going to be a very calming turning point. This is not going to be abrasive. This is not going to be in your face. This is not going to be this kind of 180 flipping of the script, dramatic, epiphany. Taurus is slow energy, okay? And I think a lot of us are very complacent in our lives and a little bit too okay with what feels safe and secure, and we kind of just like come up with reasons to ignore that. And we come up with reasons just kind of like be lazy and like, you know what, I'm not going to address this, I'm going to avoid this, and I'm going to do whatever I can and indulge in a million other things rather than what I've been procrastinating on, rather than address the things that are really, really important. I'm actually going to bury those things very, 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 very deep into the, into the soil, if you will, okay? We're putting our heads into the sand. Taurus is a slow-moving sign, so the things that are going to be realized and felt with this full moon in Taurus are things that have been brewing for a while. These are things that have been building for a while. This is a slow progression here. So don't expect this full moon in Taurus to give you this like light bulb, aha, chaotic moment, like, oh my God, like I'm crying in the rain. It's more of a shift about rebalancing, okay? This is more of a slow shift. And making you aware of things that are not balanced, okay? Because during this full moon in Taurus, we'll have Venus in Libra ruling this full moon in Taurus. So this is very much also tied to not only our self-worth and value, but also with Venus being about finances, our, security, and of course our relationships. And so this full moon in Taurus may be, really showing you ways in which you need to maybe pursue different friendships. Like maybe you need to be making different decisions there. Maybe you've grown really tired of things that are clearly no longer aligned with you. Okay, like there are things that, this full moon in Taurus might be showing you, okay, like this is something that I've kind of like outgrown. And that can be unsettling, right? Because it sucks when you try on a pair of shoes and they're perfect and they're exactly what you've been looking for, but they just don't fit. Like they kind of fit, but they're just like a little bit too tight. And so you can really only wear them like, 30 minutes at a time, and then you really have to take them off. And this full moon in Taurus is like, okay, but like what if you gave those away finally to make room for something that's going to fit you perfectly? And that can be very intimidating because you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that until I see what's on the other side. But you have to realize that you cannot get anywhere without taking risks. You just can't. Unfortunately, that's just how it works. You're not always going to know what's on the other side. You're not always going to have someone holding your hand through it, okay? Sometimes you just have to leap and have faith that the net is on the bottom and that you will be caught. You know what I mean? But it's all about taking that first step, and it's up to you. You know what I mean? This full moon in Taurus is really saying, like, are you prepared for what comes next? Right? Because what comes next in November is this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius and Scorpio. And then, Venus is going to enter Scorpio right after the full moon. And then we are also going to have, Mars entering Sagittarius. Whatever is feeling heavy right now, this full moon in Taurus is really going to be showing you this is what needs to be transformed. This is what you need to be working with, right? Don't just disregard it. Don't just throw it in the trash, okay? This full moon in Taurus is about using what you already have and making it fucking work. This is especially important for the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, and really be on the lookout for your Scorpio and Sagittarius houses for this November, because that is really going to be where you're doing a lot of reevaluating, maybe getting some needed closure. And also there's going to be a lot of new beginnings happening for the Sagittarius, Scorpio houses in your chart.